I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared, right, the promised land. Beware of him, obey his voice, provoke him not. For he will not pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. So this angel is operating in the presence of the Lord. The name of Jesus, in this same sense, is in him. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemy. Now, if you have an enemy come your way, then get down on your hands and knees and pray and trust God that that enemy will be your enemy. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice, well, as long as you're obeying the voice of God in the angel, you're going God's way, right? Then you then have God's protection. This is the whole point here. We absolutely need God's miraculous protection in the presence of his holy angels. Now, the only way we're ever going to get that presence of God, that protection from God, is if that we not only get in with these angels, that we obey their voice. You won't hear nothing with your ears, but if they're speaking to you in the presence of the Lord, first and foremost, you'll know that they've come to you in the presence of the Lord. It's all in the presence of the Lord. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice, right, the voice of this angel, and do all, all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies, and an adversary unto thine adversaries. For mine angel shall go before thee, and bring thee in unto the Amorites, and the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. Well, there's God saying to Moses, he's not talking about one person that he will cut off. He's talking about all of these great nations of Moses' day, right? The Hittites, the Perizzites, whole nations. Hittites, Perizzites, and Canaanites, and Hivites, and Jebusites. And God's going to cut them off. They're no doubt evil generations of Moses' day, evil nations of Moses' day, and the sword of God's judgments coming to them in and through Moses, and ultimately through Joshua and Caleb. They obeyed God's voice. And these great nations, they also following God's lead, and also an angel, if not the Lord himself, the captain of the Lord's host, appearing to Joshua and telling him he's on the holy ground and this sort of thing. So the Lord himself, if not an angel, appearing to Joshua, referring to himself as being the captain of the Lord's host. So Jesus, if not Jesus in an angel, this is what I'm saying, it's not always easy to tell. Appearing as the captain of the Lord's host, now there Joshua's going to go in. And all of these, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, God telling Moses he's going to cut them off, right? And Moses obeying this angel, and I will be an enemy unto thine enemies, an adversary unto thine adversaries. On that level, basically, on the level of cutting off great nations, how much more would not necessarily cut off in that a lot of these peoples and nations that were being judged by God through Joshua, and God and Joshua in that sense being the sword of the Lord, and these nations being cut off, right, and judged for their sins. Powers that be are ordained of God, right? And if God puts his sword in a king's hand, and that sword is the sword of the Lord. And with Nebuchadnezzar, the sword of the Lord was in that sense put in Nebuchadnezzar's hands, and the children of Israel were being, in a sense, cut off if they didn't obey God, didn't obey what Jeremiah was telling them to obey the Lord. The word of the Lord was in him like fire, and he couldn't contain it. So, like the word of the Lord was in him like a volcano, and the lava coming out of the heart into the mouth, fiery words. And Jeremiah trying to hold back on this, and saying that his words were in me like fire, and I couldn't contain it. So the volcano wants to erupt, the lava wants to come out of the volcano, and the words of God have to come out. And so Jeremiah finally releasing the volcanic eruption, and then speaking the absolute words of God as coming out of the volcano, being God on this occasion. So it's interesting how on this occasion here, Moses was called up to the mountain, chapter 24, and he said unto Moses, the Lord again, come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron, right? So it's the presence of the Lord, it's the Lord, no doubt it's God himself speaking, and it's Jesus, and yeah, it's an angel, right? Because it's not easy to work out how it all works. And he said unto Moses, come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu, and 70 elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off, right? So, and Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come nigh, neither shall the people go up with him. So Moses is called to the top of the mountain. So you kind of get a hierarchy here, right? Moses is right up the very top of the mountain like being God. And, you can tell why the Illuminati and all these people, not going to go into all that, but why they have a pyramid and the command structure. Yeah, the Rothschilds are right at the top of the mountain. They're the voice of their God to the people, right? But we're not going to go into all that. But this is more the voice of God, right? Moses called to the top of the mountain. He's the voice of God in all of this. Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come near and come nigh. Neither shall the people go up with him, right? So these Aaron and Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the elders, and they're allowed to worship afar off, right? The elders of Israel. Moses called to the top of the mountain. And then went up Moses. Let's just jump over here a bit, see how it all works. Then went up Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, right? They're called up to the top of the mountain. Moses called to the very top. And these 70 elders and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu further down the mountain, right? The command structure kind of drawn up here. And now it says in verse 10, and they saw the God of Israel. So they being, I guess, Moses, Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, these 70 elders, right? Standing afar off, looking as Moses goes on up to the top of the mountain. And now it's saying, and they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, as it were, the body of heaven, in his clearness. So you picture it well. Is this the God? Now it's talking God, right? Of Israel. We're talking more God and not so much the angel. And they look under the feet of God, right? And they saw the God of Israel. And I guess he's coming down in a cloud, right? And they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone. So they're on the kind of top-ish part of the mountain. Moses going on up, or was going to go on up. I guess maybe as Moses is with them at this point. So I'm only reading what it says. And unto the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand. Also they saw God and did eat and drink. So they appear to have spent some